Welcome to Fresh Start with Jason Cline.
Welcome to the Fresh Start podcast with Attorney Jason Cline, founder of the Law Office of Jason Cline in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Jason helps individuals and families across New Mexico find clarity and confidence through Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy solutions. I'm Lisa Mosbey, your host, and today we're breaking down what really happens from the moment you first reach out for help until your bankruptcy case is complete. Welcome, Jason. Are you ready to jump into some timelines today?
Let's do this.
All right. Jason, when someone first calls your office, what's the very first step? Like, what does that initial consultation actually look like?
Well, the first step is really just a conversation. When someone calls my office, we set up a consultation where we can sit down and go through their situation in detail. In that consultation, it's really about understanding what's going on, what debts they have, what their income looks like, what they're trying to accomplish, if there's going to be any red flags. And a lot of people, they come in there feeling overwhelmed. But by the end of that meeting, the goal is to have some clarity on what their options are and what the next steps look like, and really some relief to that stress.
And after that first meeting, how long does it usually take to gather the paperwork and prepare to file?
That really depends on how quickly someone can get their documents together. For most people, it's pretty quick. On average, about 30 days. I have some clients that are ready to file within a few days, though, and others, they can take weeks, months. I've had some take a year before, but that's really kind of up to each individual client. There's no rush on my side. The goal is to make sure everything is accurate and complete before we file so there aren't any issues later.
And then during that process, that gathering process, what kinds of documents or information do people need to pull together before you can move forward?
It's actually pretty basic stuff. The main things that we're looking for are income documents. We'll need 6 months worth of pay stubs, 2 years of tax returns. We're going to pull credit reports, so that really helps out with getting the debts in there. We're going to need some information on assets like your home, your vehicles, bank accounts. So we're also looking at your monthly expenses so we can get a full picture of the full financial situation. It can sound like a lot, but once you start gathering up, it's usually more manageable than people expect.
And then, Jason, once the case is filed, what happens right away? Does the automatic stay take effect immediately?
Yes, immediately. The moment the case is filed, the automatic stay goes into place. That means that all collection calls, lawsuits, garnishments, repossessions, all of it has to stop right then. And for a lot of people, that's the first real moment of relief that they've had in a long time.
Can you walk us through what the 341 meeting of creditors is and what clients can expect when they attend it?
So the 341 meeting is required part of the process, but it's usually a lot simpler than what most people expect. It's not in a courtroom. It's actually done by Zoom. It's a short meeting with the trustee who asks some basic questions about your paperwork and your financial situation. Most of the time, it takes less than 5 minutes, and creditors rarely show up to it. As long as everything is accurate and you're prepared, it's a very straightforward process. It's really nothing to worry about.
And I want to compare Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Not everybody's familiar with what those numbers represent. How different is the overall timeline between a Chapter 7 and a Chapter 13 case?
Well, that's a great question. So Chapter 7s are relatively quick. From time of filing to discharge, it's going to be about 3 to 4 months total. Now, Chapter 13 is longer because it involves a payment plan. This can take 3 to 5 years. So the timeline is really different depending on which chapter someone files under.
And what are the most common delays or bumps in the process? How can clients avoid those?
Well, the most common delays come from missing documents or incomplete information. And if the documents aren't provided or something's not accurate, it can really slow us down. So the best way to avoid that is to just be thorough and responsive. When we ask for something, getting it quickly to us helps us keep everything moving along smoothly.
And I suppose that talks to or speaks to that preparation process as well. The bumps and delays happen because we didn't properly prepare or pull those documents together. Would that be accurate?
That's exactly right. If we don't have the information to be able to fill out the paperwork, then we really can't file the case.
Exactly. Yeah. At what point does someone receive their discharge, and what does that discharge actually mean in a practical term?
Well, and discharge is the ultimate goal of the bankruptcy. In a Chapter 7, that's going to come a little over 3 months after filing the case, 2 months after our meeting with the trustee, the 341 meeting, assuming everything goes as we expected it to. In a Chapter 13, the discharge is not going to happen until after the repayment plan is complete, so it does take 3 to 5 years. Now, keep in mind that you are protected by that automatic stay we talked about earlier that entire time, so no one can attempt to collect while we're getting to that goal of discharge. But what the discharge means in practical terms is that your qualifying debts are legally eliminated. You're no longer responsible for paying them, and creditors can't come after you for those debts anymore. So, in essence, all of your debts have been wiped clean with very few exceptions.
Jason, I'd like to bring this episode together for folks. We've talked generally about the rules and the steps and the process. Do you by chance have an example of a case where timeline mattered and how somebody may have run into some of these bumps or slowdowns because of their preparation?
Well, the timeline can actually really matter in a lot of cases. So say a case where we're trying to stop a foreclosure on someone's house. We're on a ticking clock that whole time because we need to beat that sale date on the house so it doesn't foreclose before we can file the case. So I have had cases where people are just not getting me those pay stubs. They're not getting me the tax returns. I can't get this paperwork filled out so that we can file their case before that deadline. I do try to be very good about that. I will drop everything to make sure that an individual's case can be filed. However, and I do actually have other clients as well. So when I have to drop everything to do a case because people aren't getting me information earlier, it's going to put me behind on other cases. And, if that information never comes, that sale date could pass and they're just going to end up losing that house, which is a horrible situation. The paperwork, it's important.
And Jason, can you cancel a bankruptcy once you filed if you know you can't meet the timelines?
Well, so all of this is before filing, but for after filing, you can't really just cancel a bankruptcy. There's always going to be a bankruptcy filing there. In Chapter 7, there is no voluntary dismissal. Now, if you don't get your documents in, if things have to get to the Chapter 7 trustee, if the U.S. trustee asks for things and we don't get it to them, then they can try to get your case dismissed. But once you file a Chapter 7 case, you're in it. You cannot voluntarily dismiss it. Chapter 13, on the other hand, does have the option of voluntary dismissal. It's not exactly canceling the bankruptcy. There is going to be a bankruptcy filing on your record, but you can get it dismissed on your own.
Besides losing your house, I understand that one, but are there penalties involved for missing those timelines?
So there can be penalties involved in missing timelines. So there's the losing your house. There's also repossessions of vehicles. You can have your case dismissed if you miss timelines. Garnishment of wages. If it's garnished prior to filing, we're probably not getting it back to you. There's definitely penalties if you miss the timelines. You've got to stay on time and relevant.
So you can't cancel it, but you could intentionally miss a timeline and it would get dismissed. Would it still be on your record? Talk to me about that dismissal process. What does that look like for an individual?
So yes, if you miss a timeline, you don't get documents to a trustee on time, which I do have to say that they're generally very giving on giving you extensions on timelines. But if you totally miss it and you blow it and you can't get it to them, then they can motion to dismiss. A motion to dismiss can be responded to, and you're going to have nearly a month again to just get that stuff to them. You miss that too, then they're going to seek to have your case dismissed. Now, dismissal is still going to be on your record. You're going to show that you filed for bankruptcy and that it was dismissed. Not exactly a good thing. Generally, discharge looks better than dismissal. Now, if your case is dismissed, your creditors can begin collection actions again against you. They can once again sue you. You can be garnished. You can lose your house, your car. So you have no bankruptcy protection anymore. The automatic stay is gone. Now, if you turn around and try to refile after you've had a dismissal on your case, then you get a limited automatic stay as well that you have to motion to extend in order to keep protection throughout your entire bankruptcy on the second one around, if it's filed within the year after. Then if you were to do it twice and have to file 3 bankruptcies in a 1-year period, then you don't get an automatic stay at all, and you have to apply to get that automatic stay.
For listeners who might be nervous about how long all this takes, how do you help them stay calm and focused during this process?
The biggest thing is to just set the expectations from the beginning. Once people understand the timeline and what to expect at each step, a lot of that anxiety will go away. And I remind clients that the hardest part is usually before they file. Once the case is filed and the protection is in place, things start to feel much more manageable. That weight is just lifted from your shoulders. It is a process, but it's a very structured one, and you're not going through it alone. I'm going to take it from here.
Jason, I want to leave it there. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this conversation and walking us through the timelines for these bankruptcies.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. It's been great talking to you.
Folks, that's it for today's episode of the Fresh Start Podcast. To learn more about Attorney Jason Cline and how he can help you navigate bankruptcy with confidence, visit attorneyjasoncline.com. Thank you so much for listening. And remember to subscribe, share, and leave a review so more New Mexico residents can find the fresh start they deserve. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.